I have my man Monche Rogers. Monche, how are you doing today, big dog?
I'm good. I can't complain. It's another day, in the life.
That's awesome, bro. Well, today Monche is here with me, and hopefully we'll be joined by a couple other guests. But because Monche is a married man, Monche is in his 20s. Monche is someone who has started his family and has a lot of good things going on throughout his life. And we'll hopefully we'll get to speak to some other married men. But we're here today to talk about Black love, Black marriage, and all of this leading up to obviously Valentine's Day is this weekend. So, Monche, first thing I want to ask you is, what was your earliest memory of Black love, right? Like, what was something that you saw like that really like took you there, that took you like, man, that's something that I might aspire to want to be, or I might want to be into that, like whether it was some parents or some aunties and uncles, a TV show, like what kind of was your first experience with that?
Oh, if I had to guess, knowing me, it was a Black love movie.
Mm-hmm.
Black love movie. I don't know if I've always liked the idea of love in movies, and I've always seen like, okay, I want my families to be, really family oriented people. I always wanted to grow up and just get married, have families, do everything young. I think that was probably the earliest I can remember.
That's awesome, bro. That's awesome. See, for me, it was the image of my grandparents. Like
Mm.
my grandparents, I think were the first people that I saw that I was like, dang, like that is real, like Black love. Both the Jacksons, Ethel Jackson, James Jackson, those were the two people that I saw, and I kind of like, man, like this is what love that can stand the test of time kind of looks like. And so that was something that I saw at a very early age. And I saw a lot of movies. I really liked Fresh Prince. You know, Fresh Prince, you got that like Black love image. That was something that used to be on repeat all the time throughout my household. So that was something I was really tuned into, and something that really like caught my eye. So Monche, you're 25, right? Like were you 25, 26?
25.
25. Monche, what is it like, man, being a 25-year-old married man with a child? Like you're a family man, bro. Like you're 25. Like you know what I'm saying? We used to hoop at the park, down at high school, and now you were like literally a family man. Just kind of walk me through that experience, what it's like for you.
I don't even. I was never a person to put age on love. Anytime you was in relationships in high school or middle school, whatever, parents were like, "Oh, you don't know what love is. You don't know what that is." Blah blah blah. I'm like, how you gonna sit here and tell me I don't know what love is when I know what love is from seeing you, relationships you have with your person, your lady, or your husband, or even the love that you give, me as a child. I know what love is. So I think I don't know, just it was never a thing that we're like, okay, I want to get young. I don't want to get married too young. It was just when I'm ready, I'm ready, and I just happened to be ready. I don't know. I was never. I was never really afraid of it, I guess. So being 25, being married, it's like now all I got to do is just live the rest of my life and growing my family, growing everything to being what I want to be. I already planted the seed, now I just got to make that tree grow, and that's really the goal.
So what do you think are, so you kind of touched on it a little bit, but what are some of the advantages of being married and having starting your family at an age of 25 instead of waiting until you're 30 or 35?
Get the tax money, kids, baby. That's it. That's definitely the advantage. But no, I mean, legally. There's things that come with being married and having kids. That's definitely some things that's I guess an advantage. But it's just I wouldn't say necessarily because I'm young, but I got that foundation to build something I guess greater than if I started late in my 40s or 50s. Now I can really build some amazing generational things. Like so my biggest thing is trying to build generational wealth with my family. So now that we started young, I can get that. I can get that going. Obviously, assuming I live a long life, that's the goal.
That's awesome, bro. That is awesome, man. So like, yeah, that is definitely an advantage. It's something that a lot of people don't think about, right? Like you get to plant your roots and plant your foundation, and now, like you say, you can just build on it, right?
Yeah.
You're not worried about like extra things taking you away from your family. You getting a chance to really build on that starting at age 25. So Monche, we're gonna, this is like a segment that we get to brag on your woman. I mean, we're supposed to have other guys, but since you the shining star right now, when did you get a chance to brag on your wife a little bit? When did you meet your wife? How to kind of talk me through that process and just how did it come about to you? When did you finally realize like, dang, I think I'm gonna marry this woman?
Man, the first time we met, it was on campus in 2013 at UK. I was with another girl. I was with her at the time. We were just walking, and we ran to a friend of ours, and she was with our mutual friends. And she introduced me right there, and I was, hey, I met you. Her name's Jalen. Blah blah blah. Okay, whatever. After that, I would see her around campus with some friends that I knew, and we would sit down and talk. And she would ask me if I'm still with the other girl. I was like, no, that's that's nothing, that's dead, blah, blah, whatever. So time goes on, time goes on. There was one day where it was me and one of my close friends, Skinny. We would walk through the student center. She was with somebody else. So we get to rapping to them, and he's doing his thing. I'm letting him do his wild talk. I'm just sweet talking them, letting them know what kind of man I am. Just doing my thing. Just running game. I didn't never know I was gonna talk to that girl like that. I was just running game so they could just see what kind of dude I was. That was it. And to this day, I tell her, I said, I was sweet talking to you. You knew what I was saying. You heard what I said, but that made you flock to me. So the time comes to what, January 2014, almost February, Valentine's Day comes around. She puts a note in my mailbox at UK. They said, "Will you be my Valentine?" She kissed it and put a phone number on there. I already knew who it was. I was like, right here. I was like, look, so I'm telling everybody, I'm like, look what she just did. Girl right here. So she, I was hyped, but I was just like, I was like, I don't know if I want to talk to her or not, but I ended up giving it a shot, calling her whatever, telling her I'll be at Valentine's, and that kind of kicked it off from there. Ever since then, been on with her this whole time.
So, wow. So, like, you sound like you was running the game a little bit, but it sounded like she kind of like made the move on you, big dog. Is that?
Even after, actually, but it was like a couple days before she wrote that note, we was at a party, and I knew she was feeling me. I knew she wanted me. I was trying to get a dance with her. No, was not having it. Barred me straight up. I'm like, I can't get a dance. Like, what's up? I thought you wanted me. Wasn't having it. Then a couple days later, she wants to put a note in my mailbox. I'm like, okay. I see what she's on. She's playing hard. It was cool.
Yeah, she's playing hard to get, but ladies, hey, sound like if you make that be aggressive, you might get you a husband out of it. That's all I'm saying. I mean, it sound like Miss Jalen was aggressive, and she ended up with a husband. So I mean, I'm just throwing that out there for the ladies who are considering that or who thinks that may or may not be an option. You might get you a husband out of it. So moving forward, just moving on from that, just that was like you said, it was January or Valentine's Day 2014. We're 7 years later. At what point did you realize, like, I think I'm going to end up marrying her? I think this is the woman that I want to marry. Because that's a big jump from just getting a Valentine's Day date or note or whatever to actually being married to where you're at right now.
It was early. It was for around 2 years or something, because we got married at our third year? It was around 2 years. Like, it didn't take no time. It was so effortless with us. Like I said, the love and everything was just so effortless. When it comes to love and being me, who I am, with her, I was never, ever, I guess, afraid. Like, I've never been more of myself around nobody than her. Everybody else, I've kind of tiptoed around certain parts of me, but like, nah, it was just easy. She never judged me. She never shied away from, oh, he's this, he's that. Like, she embraced everything, who I was, and it was just it. Like, I was like, well, she made it so easy to love her. It was just like, all right, bet, I know what I'm doing. Just gonna go ahead and settle down. Like,
That's awesome, bro. Like, that is really awesome. Once again, I'm talking to Monshay Rogers. He is a 25-year-old married man with a family. We'll get to your family part in a second, but be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe. We're highlighting Black love today, right ahead of Valentine's Day. And leave your comments down below. So, Monshay, some other things I want to get to you. What was it like when you told your family, your folks, there's like, hey, I think Jalen's the one. I think I'm going to get married. Was it something that they kind of already knew, or was they kind of shocked? Like, how did that conversation go with your family?
I think it was different on both sides. From like, my father said I think they already knew. My mom was kind of shocked. They was like, oh, you too young, you ready. But at the end of the day, you got to just roll with it. You got to embrace it. And so, like that one time the wedding day got there, everybody was crying, boo-hooing, and even my best man, I was crying from the point when all the bridesmaids and everybody was walking. I was letting it out, pouring it out. When she walked out, I just lost. I was like, fuck, I can't help it. I was just crying for the longest, but it was, like I said, everybody embraced it. Everybody loved it. Nobody was like, everybody knew that it was genuine. So it was just perfect.
So you said you actually cried when you saw her walk down. Like, what was that feeling like? You said you was crying, bro. Take me to that moment. What was that feeling like, man?
I was dying. If you would have seen me crying, people were like, somebody died. Why is he crying so hard? I've never cried hard for no reason. I was like, why am I crying so hard? I got my best man hold me up and I get it together. Like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what it was, but maybe I just didn't cry so long. I was just gone. It was over with. That emotion. I was nervous. The only thing I hate about my wedding was my vows. I was like, my vows are so generic, because we wrote our own vows out. I was like, these are so generic. And then she read her vows. I was like, man, she just killed mine. I was like, mine was so trash. Nothing.
You still remember that? Like, you still remember your vows being that bad?
Yes. I hated that. Hated
That
that.
is, that is well. At least you wrote your own vows, right? Like you didn't have to preach or do it, so it was genuine. I mean, you can feel like it was generic, bro, but it was genuine, like you said.
Yeah,
Like you
for
know what I'm
sure.
saying? It came from the heart, is what you was feeling at that time. So,
Mhm.
Mache, how long have you been married? You said you've been married how many years?
3 years going on 4.
3 years going on 4. Just kind of take me through that first year. What was it like being married? You know, year one, it was new, it was fresh, everything was. It was kind of, what was that like?
It was
At
kind of
22, at 22, like I remember, he was 22 years old. So what was it like being married?
it's like winning the Super Bowl. So I'm like, you got your ring, they to show it off. It was kind of like one of, it was more of a, okay, look at me, I'm married, blah, 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 this and that. It was happy giggly. We did our thing. We traveled, went to Jamaica with our whole family. So that was cool. It was just like a family trip / honeymoon. So that was a good time. Like I said, the first year it was just beautiful. It was like, there was no issues. We really don't really argue that much. Even back then, we didn't really argue. Like, it was just perfect. I had no issues, no complaints, honestly.
That's awesome, man. So during the marriage, once again, I'm talking to Monche Rogers, is talking about black love, black marriage, and building wealth, and all of this. All of this encapsulates together. Especially, I mean, you're talking about a young man that got married at age 22. Like, just so, what was that like, Monche? You were 22, and you're married, and you know you're about to start building a family and things like that. But your friends are still going out. Your friends are still partying. Your friends are still wanting to hit the scene. Like, just kind of tell me what that dynamic was like for you. Being a married man at age 22.
Uh, It was really nothing. I said, I'm still able to do everything everybody else is able to do. All you gotta do is call me and just find out. Like, one time, I think I took a trip. I was like, why didn't I just call me and tell me y'all going on a trip? I would have went. We could have went together. I would have left the wife there, or she would have came with me. It'd have been whatever. Like, it's whatever. Like, so when it comes to things like that, me and her, if I want to do something, she want to do something, we just discuss it. If timelines, I guess, match up, then it just is what it is. We can go, we can't go. It's really no big deal. I mean, like I said, I'm not old. I ain't hearing nobody. I don't care nobody say I ain't old. You only get old when you yell, you act like it. I ain't with
Yeah.
it.
Nah, that's facts, man. That is facts. Like, I mean, no, I can't imagine, because like being married and having a bunch of like single friends that still want to go out, still want to party, still want to, like, yeah, you can still go out and still do your thing, but it's like limitations, right? Like there's certain things, obviously, there's things you can't do. Like, you don't want to be disrespectful. You have a wife, you have a woman, you can't, like, you know what I'm saying? You know what is and isn't acceptable, right? Like, what is cool, what isn't cool, what should go down, what can't go down. Like, all those things, I'm sure it still applies to you as well, right?
Yes, of course, 100%. That's why I try to get her to go with me, because I'm like, man, look, baby. Sometimes I be fitted in the club. They be like, ooh, look at that tall dark dude. Like, yeah, you never know. But it is what it is. I say respectful though. I definitely say respectful.
So what's that like? Has there ever been a thing with your woman that, like, somebody tried to press you, like a woman tried to get at you or whatever? And
First day after we got married, someone was in my DMs talking about, hey, remember me, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, there's no way you didn't just see all these pictures of me getting married. I know you've seen all of this. There's no way you're in my DMs right now. I kid you not. I'm telling you. I was like, what in the world? I'm showing her. I'm showing people. I'm like, there's no way. She gotta be playing with me. But I was like, whatever. I mean, she was shooting a shot. I don't think too deep into it. I'm like, it's some people really, I don't know. I don't get it. Some people just see a married man and they like that.
wow.
I don't know. It's weird.
So you said the first day you were married, somebody slid in your DM.
The next day, I was like, like, I'll never forget it. I probably still got the DMs, but it's
That is funny, man. So Manche, take me. I know we talked about the first year, but just kind of take me through the marriage life, and just what was that like? Like you said, you knew after 2 years that you were like pretty much that, hey, this is where I want to be. Was there ever any doubt? Right? Like, was there ever any doubt that's like, man, I don't know, maybe this ain't the right decision, or kind of like, or like, man, I'm still kind of young. I'm 22 years old. Like, was there ever any of that ever crept in your mind? And if it did, how did you kind of get over that?
I'd be lying if I say there was no doubt. I feel like in any decision, it's always sometimes, there's something in the back of your mind that makes you think, am I rushing it? Am I, this and that? And I've talked to her about it. I said, in our reality, we was gonna get married regardless. If the timeline that we was on was with me being in the military and her being in school, we would have probably gotten to get married maybe a year later. That's probably at the most that it would have been different. But I was just doubting. It was just like, it was just in my wrestling. I knew I could have waited one more year, that way things could have, with her moving down here and everything could have been lined up a little bit better. But that was really it. There was never a doubt as far as, am I getting married because, for the military, am I getting married because who I really want to be with? I knew for a fact I wanted to be with her. I knew for a fact I wanted to start my family and settle down and all that with her. That was, she was the end all be all for that. But I never doubted, like, she wasn't the one.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Like, it's really, like you said, there's a lot of things a lot of people don't talk about. Now, you touched on it a little bit. You were in the military when you decided to get married. Just kind of, how did that play a factor in anything? Was that tough? Like, where you got separated at any point? And then if you were, just kind of, how was that like, being in the military? And you said your wife's still in school.
That first year, actually. So, yeah, we got married. After we got married, she had just graduated college. So, after, the wedding was in April. She had the week after that was May. She had just graduated, so we might have stayed home for like another week and then moved down to Florida. And it was just it. It was pretty easy. You had to go through and get her in the system for military stuff, do all of that stuff, blah, blah, blah. But we didn't. That first year, I had deployed, went to Iraq. That's the first time we got separated. And she was here. She was in Florida by herself while I was over there. And it wasn't as tough, but it was tough. It was probably really tough on me mentally as far as getting in my head, I had a lot of time to be out there, just sit down and think to myself about just life, period. Mm-hmm. So just had a lot of negative thoughts. I had positive thoughts too, but it was a lot of just stuff, period. I was just like, man, I need to let certain things go, blah, blah, blah. It was tough. It's hard to explain. It's kind of like just being in solidarity. Like I was used to being where I was used to, confide in her, talking to her every day. But when I get whatever, we're in different time zones, we got, different schedules. We're not talking as much or as frequent. So it was kind of like, so we ain't talking. It's just me sitting there, just thinking to myself, just thinking about anything. Just like you said, those were times I'm doubting certain things. I'm like, did I do the right thing? Did I, that goes on, but that even goes all the way back to me. That I really, did I join the military? Like, why did I do that? This and that. It's just, I was just debating everything.
You just had a lot of time to think and a lot of time to. It really sounded like it was on your mind a lot, man. Like that's like, I mean, that sounds. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, you're in Iraq, right? Like your wife's in Florida. Like, and you guys are still young, and she's from Kentucky, so you don't really know many people in Florida. You don't. I mean, you moved here to be with you, and I bet. I mean, I can only imagine how that was. It sounds like it was it just sounds like it might have been a nightmare for a little bit. Now we have another guy that's joining in with us. This is Mr. Marcus Stubbs. Marcus, how are you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing well, brother. Thanks for having me.
It's no problem. It's no problem. Once again, I am here talking to Marcus Stubbs and Monshay Rogers, and we're here highlighting Black love. This is a Black love panel. This is Black men speaking to brag a little bit about their wives. Both Marcus and Monshay are both married. Marcus, how many years have you been married now?
I've been married for 1.5 years, so June 7th, 2019.
June 7th, 2019. And Monshay, you've been married for how long again?
3 years going on 4 since
3 years.
April 29th, 2017.
Gotcha. So, Marcus, some of the questions I asked Monshay was just kind of let's start with this one. How did you meet your wife? Just kind of tell a little bit about how you met your wife, and at what point did you know, like, okay, I think this is the woman that I'm going to marry? Ain't no thinking. This is the woman I'm going to marry. When did that finally click for you?
Yeah, mutual friendship groups. Chantel and I both went to Western Kentucky University. So I knew that she was a great advocate for all the things that she has done at WKU. We had similar Bible groups. So that was something that we've learned to engage in a little bit more. And I was just thinking that she's just a cool person, like just to get to know and just to hang out and see what her other interests are. And so it all started with, learning a little bit more about her. And then, there was also a time where some family member has passed away. Her papa has passed away. And that was when I reached out to her and wanted to pray for her and her family. And then it just started off, doing study groups and learning a little bit more about each other. And then that's when I was like, wow, she's an awesome person, great personality. She loves God. She's a family person. And she likes to continue to advocate for social justice. And this was all in the rims that I'm all about. And so I think it was just more of that, like, okay, if we have these certain interests and these certain things that we like to do and continue to push forth, I think it was a match, that, God wanted us to be together, because I do believe in that. He that finds a good wife finds a good thing. And so I truly do. And I believe she's a gem, not only for myself, but for the family and for the community.
That's awesome, man. That is awesome. And so how long was it that you all were dating to when you hit that moment that you were like, okay, this is the woman that I want to spend the rest of my life with?
Right. So when we were dating, that started in December 23rd, 2016. Now I'm remembering all this because she's watching.
I was because Marsha had receipts too. I'm like, dang, yo,
look, brothers, worldwide, you have to have receipts because they watching you. We first dated in December 23rd, 2016, and it would just first start off with just these little study sessions, these little dates. And I just want to answer your question, right? So just like how I know, right? Yeah, sure. And, I mean, it was just these little things, right? It didn't have to be these grandiose, like, whoa, like she has this, particular thing, or she has these accolades or awards or anything like that. It was just her characteristics, the way she carried herself, the way that she respected herself, right? And the way she handled herself. And so those were some of the things that I knew was very important. One of the most important things, obviously, is, just having the God, at the center of it all. If this is not a God-centered relationship, then I don't think it would have gone well because myself, I'm a Christian man. I believe in God, and I believe in just continue to make his name glorious, and just continue to spread out the love. So if we didn't have that tangible right there, I don't think it would serve well, because literally we're going to be living with each other for the rest of our lives. And what a horrible way to, live with each other if y'all have, connection with him. And so I think that was the main factor right there of why we continue to want to be with each other, because we saw each other. We see each other as someone that could be a lifelong partner.
That's awesome, man. That is really awesome. Manche, I'm gonna come to you with this. Just based off when you were deciding to get married, was your relationship with your wife's family, did that play a factor at all? Like whether you got along or not? Like kind of just talk to me a little bit about the relationship that you have currently with your wife's family.
That was a huge factor for me. I've always thought that being a part of the in-laws, being part of their family was always a big thing to me. Because I would always, just growing up, people say, "Oh, my in-laws are coming in," and then people like, "Oh, I hate that we don't get along, this and that." I'm like, "Why don't y'all get along?" Like, that was always one of those things in the back of my mind, like, am I gonna get along with their family? But once I finally had met all her whole family, everything was just perfect. We gelled together just fine. Her her youngest brother, who was like a year older than me, so we get along just fine. Even the older brother would get along just fine. It was all effortless. There was no anything. Even when she met my family, she came in, everybody loved her, everybody took her in, and she was just like that. So once Christmas came, she was getting gifts just like I was getting gifts from my parents, and it was just like she was already a part of the family. It was all just too easy.
That's awesome to hear. That's really great, because like you said, that matters. So, when you watch movies and you see different things, the people hate their in-laws. They hate when they come into town. They hate going to see them, and it's just like, dang, like I can imagine having that relationship with your wife's family, with your in-laws is important. Marcus, I'm going to ask you this because I asked Marsha this earlier. What was your family's reaction? Because Marcus, you're in your 20s too. Like, I mean, you guys are married in your 20s. What was your family's reaction when you came to them and was like, "Hey, I'm going to marry Chantel. I think I'm about to propose, like, whenever I do it, but this is what I want to do." Kind of, what was their reaction to you?
The reaction was good. My sisters, Robin and Asia, went to WKU as well as the same time we took interest with each other. So, that kind of segued easily into, knowing a little bit more about my family on my side. And they really liked her. Asia, if anyone doesn't know about Asia, she doesn't play, so, but, and Chantel took a notice of that too. And, Robin's, a cool person and stuff of that nature. And so it was all love though. At the end of the day, it wasn't no interrogation, like, what you going to do? Who are you? That type of thing. It was just more so of like, okay, I know you, you're awesome. And then, when we started to, do little family outings. So on Christmas Day, actually, before we were married, we went to take our family out for a movie night. And so that was our Christmas present to them, but also get to know each other. We are a firm believer in families getting to know each other. And literally, Chantel's like the master of ceremonies when it comes to games and getting families included and things of that nature. And it has helped us a lot to communicate our similarities and communicate our differences.
Definitely. That's awesome, man. Like I can definitely see Shan running that kind of stuff like that. Monche, I'm gonna go to you on this one. What was that day like? Just kind of take me to that day that you proposed to Jalen. Just kind of what was it like leading up to it? What was the moment like? And then Marcus, well, I'll ask you the same thing. We'll come to you after.
Man, so since we already knew it was getting married. We already knew it was, never going to be a big secret, this and that. It was something we talked about, because you have to talk about it. I don't want to get down on one knee and get rejected. So it's like, get rings out of that. So that was already just a thing. So once the day got there, I had to make it, as big a surprise as I could. So we're in Lex. I had her whole family and my family. I had everybody in on it. Everybody drive up to Lex to come to the proposal, or whatever. So I forgot what was going on that day. It might have been like a Friday or something. But we were just getting ready. I had to set up to where I was like, let's go out to eat. Go out to eat, dress up nice, go get some nice food or whatever. So we're doing all of that, getting it together. I'm calling my best man. I'm calling him up and making sure, telling him to come look at me, make sure I'm good, make sure everything is lined up, make sure. I think he had the rings. He had the rings in his possession. I don't know why. I don't know what I was doing. I was probably just hiding from her. I do weird stuff like that sometimes. I don't know. But I had him, have the rings. So I meet up with him to go get them. And then I told her, let's stop at this park before we go out to eat. So we get the dog and we go walk around this little triangle park that they got there. We're walking around. And she claims that she just knew something was off that day. So she was, when I'm trying to talk to her, I'm trying to set the mood, I'm trying to say, all nice stuff, butter up, do what I do. So we walking, we talking, but she's not paying attention to what I'm saying. She's just looking around trying to see what's going on, because she's like, something just seems off. So once I'm like, she's not biting, to anything I'm saying, I call up my dad, because I told him I want him to bring the ring to me, present the ring to me, whatever, so I can propose. So I call him, and she looks behind me. She's like, "That's your dad?" I'm like, I'm just in there smiling. So what's your dad doing? She still don't know. I can clueless, whatever. So I get the ring. I finally get down on one knee, and she's just looking at her family. She's seeing her whole family, my family, just come up, and she just is crying because of them. I'm like, she's not paying no attention. I'm already down on one knee. I already answered them therapy, all of that. She just paying attention. I'm like, okay, so I put the ring on her finger. I'm like, here, you didn't say yes, but here you go. You stuck with me now. It is what it is. I don't care. So that was one of those. That was definitely interesting. She wasn't even. I was upset that she wasn't crying. Because I was told she was crying for the whole family. I was like, that's what got you sad. That's what whatever. I mean, she's easy to please. She's simple. It was a funny day. It was definitely a funny day.
It's definitely a funny story. Marcus, that's a tough story to top, man.
Yeah.
You got to say, man.
That is. No, it was kind of, I was in that same type of that mood, like a little bit like nervous, but she also was peeping in a sense. I just don't know. Women just know.
They know.
They just know as no matter how smooth you are, no matter how relaxed, or if they see one little look, one little smirk, or a look, they gonna know something. They gonna figure it out. So this was when this happened. This was in March, and March 16th to be exact.
Ooh, man, coming with the
risk. Oh, come on. Hey, after this, I gotta sleep now. But anyway, yeah. So this happened. When this happened, this was at Buck's Restaurant, and I planned this ahead of time so that way they know to see my signal, when to come out with the ring, or not when to come out with the ring, but to come out, because it was a piano bar and a guy was going to be playing piano while I propose. And then photographers were going to come out, which was Jerry and Nikila Edmonds, if you already know Jeff. And then her goddaughter, which is my goddaughter too, Brooklyn, was going to come out with the ring. And so during that whole time, beforehand, before that day happened, I'm like, oh yeah, it's gonna be easy, it's gonna be cool, or whatever, things of that nature. It's all good. The beginning of that day, we went to my mom's first just to get things going, allowed them to all the family to be at the restaurant. And for some reason, something was off. My sister, I guess, forgot something or was doing something, and she was the one that had the ring to give to the restaurant. And Chantel and I are on time people. And so that was the first thing. So when it got close to time, I'm like,
what's going on? Yeah.
Like, out of here. You know what I'm saying? Like, go ahead, and so I gave her grace and I was like, okay, that was the first thing Chantel noticed. And then as we were, we were going on our way to Buck's restaurant, she was actually driving because I didn't have a car at that time. She had the car. And so I said, hey, let's stop at the gas station first because I forgot to get something. And she's like, we need to go to a gas station first before we go to a fancy restaurant bar. And so I was just like, I don't know, I just forgot. So like, can we just stop real quick just to give my people some time?
Yeah, just to get them to hurry up. Like,
we're all time people, just out of order.
Yeah.
And so as we got closer to Buck's restaurant, I text my sister Robin just to say, hey, give me a call so that way y'all can go ahead and sneak in to the, because that was the only door was through the front entrance. And so they had to go in while we were in the parking lot. So she could, I kid you not. So I just like, okay, I called her. I was like, oh, just hold on for 1 second. Mind you, we're almost like 2 minutes to, sit down. We had to be there. And so she's like, okay, go ahead and give a call, whatever. And so I was on the phone while everyone was tiptoeing to the door. And so we were on the phone. Then that was it. And then, and then when we got in, everything was like, okay, I winked at the person that was supposed to go ahead and do the piano. And everything was good at that time. And then she started crying. And that was that. So it was a blessing. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. That is really awesome, though. Like that, there's some funny stories. Like you said, it sounds like you guys had things planned, and then the plans get altered. But at the end of the day, you accomplished the goal that you wanted to accomplish. I mean, and two lucky ladies got engaged those nights. So that's awesome, bro. That's crazy to think about. Marcus, I asked Mache this earlier, but just you've been married for a year and a half now. Just kind of talk me through that first year and a half, how that process, how that's been for you, and just how the married life is treating you so far.
Yeah, I would like to talk about the point of communication. I think that's very, very important because we're coming from two different sides of the family, two different cultures. What's our home style like? What's our lifestyle when engaging in different things and different initiatives? Yes, we may have known each other from the outside in, from some time at WKU. However, we don't know the day-to-day routine that we have been a part of since, back in Louisville, because we're both from Louisville. So, so that was one of the biggest things. And just learning how to, communicate in the midst of a pandemic. That is a whole nother beast that no one has, gone through from generations past, I don't know, in a lifetime. So, so that was definitely interesting just to see our work pattern, just talking through things and how to continue to strategize and get things going. So I would say communication and not look at arguments as negative. When you have a type of, situation where you're having a conversation and, arguing a point, that's the simple fact of it that it is. It's arguing a point. It shouldn't be looked at as something negative. It should be looked at as a learning experience. It should be looked at as, okay, a listening experience too. And then saying, okay, if this is happening, then I need to do this in order to understand what you're going through. And not being ashamed to ask more questions because there may be some root causes of the situation. So I would say communication is very important and always giving 100 and not 50-50.
Always.
Mache, did you have something to add to that? I didn't know if you had something.
No, I would just listen to that. I mean, like you said, the communication is really, really important. I had a conversation with my parents about a month ago. Well, because me and my wife, it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't really an argument, but it was just a week that we had. We just had a bad week as far as communication that went. And during that whole week, I was really into my head. I was really thinking like negative things. I was like really getting in my head about certain things. And I was like, I would just sit down thinking. I was like, why am I thinking this way? I was like, as men, a lot of times when things aren't going a certain way with women, we tend to overthink things. We tend to plant things in our minds, and it just grows, it grows, it grows to something that it's really not. And I'm like, why am I doing it? Like, there's no reason for me doing it. I need to sit down and talk to my wife and get it actually figured it out. And once we actually talked, everything was just perfectly fine. I was like, clearly that was just me just overreacting. And same thing with her. She was, she's had a bad week at work, but she never communicated that to me. She would have communicated that I would never have these thoughts in my head. But communication is key. It's always going to be worked on with anybody. I don't care how long you've been with somebody. I don't care how well you know somebody. Communication is always probably the biggest thing you really have to, I guess, focus on in a relationship.
No, that's definitely. I mean, that's true, man. I mean, that's something you don't think about. And Marcus, what you said was very interesting because you talked about being in a relationship during a pandemic. And Manche, we'll hear from you on this too. Like, did that change anything? Like, for the first couple months, you were living life regular. Everything was open. You were going to work regularly or going to school or whatever you were doing, and then everything shut down. And then you're with your wife or you're with your person for a very long time, for an extended amount of time. Just kind of talk to me through how like pre-pandemic being married and then during the pandemic, how some of those roles might have changed. Everybody's at home more often. Just kind of talk me through that a little bit.
Yeah, like I've mentioned earlier, we're pretty much, we would like to say we're very organized and structured people. So time schedules is everything for us. And so when it comes to having that time schedule, we have to carve out space, especially when we're doing work from home. Like, okay, this is what I'm going to do at this time. And, I will be in this room. You're going to be in that room. And we take notice of that because at any point in time, if I was to, take a break and laugh at some video that I'm watching on the phone while she's actually in a Zoom meeting, having a conversation with her boss, I mean, those are just the little things where it's just like, okay, we talked about this. This is how it's going. And, we didn't want to mess each other up, which is difficult. Yes. Because, it's something that's new for us. However, that was some of the things that we had to do. And so we were very mindful of that. We were mindful of when we're, actually taking breaks and that we're taking, breaks to actually reflect on our work, on our own and stuff. So we had to mention that, okay, there's a start time to doing work, but we also have to find a finishing time, because what I've found out in my experience is that I keep going sometimes a little bit past 5 because it's just like you can do whatever you want. You're in the comfort of your home. So you can just like literally go to the kitchen, whatever you want to do, and cook you up something. So really time has lost its sense of value because of, a Tuesday can feel like a Thursday or Friday, and so we have, just staying in that order, being mindful of each other's schedules is very important in order for us to continue to do what we need to do in the midst of this pandemic.
Now, Manche, you have a little one. You have a small little child. Just kind of talk to me about parenthood. Having a little daughter and what that's like.
Man, parenthood is way more than I expected. I'd say that right off the bat. And I'm just now realizing that I spoke to my father about it. I was like, it was just way more than what I expected. When we decided to have a kid, we both knew we wanted to have kids young. It was like, let's have a kid or whatever. And she had stopped taking her birth control. Bam, 2 weeks later, she's pregnant. I said, there's no way. You've been on birth control for 6 years, 6 years. There's no way it just kicked in like that. But whatever. That's nowhere here nor there. I really don't want to have a kid. So it was just coming a little bit earlier than I expected. But honestly, I said, when the first 6-7 months or so, probably the easiest time. She's a baby. She's easy to control. She's not really doing too much movement, not too much talking. So it's just, wake up, change her, do whatever, feed her. It was simple. But now that she's, almost 2, walking, talking, moving, doing everything, just mimicking things that I do, I'm like, this is a whole new ball game. Like, since she's super independent, she's super duper smart. And I'm like, this is more than what I bargained for. But parenthood has been an eye opener. It's been it's taught a lot about myself. Definitely taught me a lot about myself. I have to be really, really patient. I thought I was a patient person, but she showed me that I wasn't as patient as I thought I was, because he's always throwing tantrums for whatever reason. I'm like, all you do is just ask for help. You don't got to cry. You don't got to scream. Just talk, communicate. But it's like you just rather just, show out. So I'm like, okay, whatever. But, I do what I have to do. I recently, like the past month or so, I like reflect on the acronym Thug Life, the hate you give little infants fucks everybody. I think that's like a really overlooked acronym, because if you really think about it, how you see some of these serial killers or anybody that's really crazy. They try to say as they were kids, they were abused. They went through a lot of traumas in the household. And I'm like, if you just, I don't know, when I think about it that way, it's like I try not to show my child any kind of hate, any kind of negative emotions. I don't want to show her, anything bad because I don't want her to let the stick with her and grow up and be, I guess, the same thing that I showed her. I'm trying to show her, present her what love is, what a two-parent household is like. I want her to see that you don't have to, you don't got to stick to that old black stigma of there's no fathers in your life. There's none of that. Like, I'm just definitely trying to take it day by day, step by step, find out where there's teachable moments in her life. And I guess even in my life as well, like I said, she can teach me things like I haven't known. It's a lot to it. I mean, parenthood it has ups and downs, but it's mainly ups. And so I love it. I don't regret it for nothing.
Now you touched on the topic, and Marcus, I'll come to you on this. You don't have a child, but you're married, and so the foundation is there. So how important is that to have a foundation, and not to knock anyone that didn't have or whatever, what I'm saying? Like, we all lived through it, but how important, Marcus, is it to have that foundation when you decide to bring a child in the world, kind of like what Manche has? I'll come and get your opinion next, Manche. But Marcus, for when you decide to have children, like, how important is it that you have that relationship with you have a wife, and when you choose to go that direction, that is something that the foundation the child is coming into?
Yeah, I believe foundation is very, very, very important. Despite what any negative stereotypes are against any two-parent household. There is a lot of media that talks about and glorifies single-parent households, which, in this case, and I think is one of the most important pieces of this video, is to say that, hey, a family is very important. A foundation is very important because, again, in my belief, that a family is the first ministry, right? You can't take care of other things like work and your friends and things of that nature if you can't take care of home. You can have this house, right? If we can just paint a picture here, you can have this house or whatnot, but is it really a home, right? Is there a foundation that's laid? Is there somewhere there's peace, right? And there's time where you can love, in the words of J. Cole, love yours, right? So I'm about to steal that, but that's one of those things that I believe when it comes to having that foundation in the home, is because you never know when your time is up, or you never know when, anyone else's time's up, and then it'll be too late. You have to, continue to give it your all, because I believe that you're making an investment. You're being a good steward of the seed that you planted. So if you're making a choice to be with someone till death do its part, then make sure that you're investing your time. Make sure you're investing your treasure, your gifts into that person, to pour into that person, because one day that gift will have a return of investment. That's where you'll have, if you want food cooked for you, or if you want, if you want something in the future, what I'm saying? I'm gonna keep it G. But anyway, but it's a lovely thing. It is a lovely thing. It's a beautiful thing when you take time to invest, so that way things can multiply in the future.
No, that's awesome. I mean, you're absolutely right. It's something that I know that is very important. Those kind of values are important. Manche, just talk to me really fast, like how, like you touched on it a little bit, but having you right there in the house, like how important you think that is for your daughter, right? Like, your daughter will be able to say, like, both my, I go home, because we get a lot of stereotypes in the black families. Yep. There's no daddy in the homes. There's mama's raising too many kids by themselves and all these kind of things. But when your daughter goes home, when she grows up and to go to school and she goes home, her dad's right there. He's picking her up from soccer practice or whatever, right? Or when she goes home, he's going to be there. Just talk to me about the importance of that, and how, how that makes you feel, because you know that you'll be there every step of the way.
It's obviously super important. I said, like, both being there's a huge dynamic between mother and father. You get two different kind of loves from mother and father, in a sense. Like, kind of like back up. I mean, she don't come to me and ask me, "Hey, Daddy, can I get this? I might say no. She go to her mom and say yes, whatever. Like, without her having two parents, whether it's a mother or father, she's gonna be lacking in a certain kind of love that the other parent can't give, I guess. And I don't know. It's tough. It's really really tough because I don't want to get too deep into it because my sister, my oldest sister, but she's younger. She's what 22 or whatever. She before my dad was in prison. Before he had came home, I can see the effect that my sister's father, our old stepfather, I can see the effect that it had put on her. What kind of woman she was. Seeing my mom get beat on, all this stuff, blah blah blah. I can see the difference between she's seeing, this is the love that my mom's getting from whoever the person that she never, that didn't give birth to me. She's seeing all of this non-crap. But when it comes to, I guess, her father, she was taught, once she moved in with him, she was taught something completely different. She was shown a different kind of love. She was shown the right kind of love that was needed, what kind of man she should look for, whenever she gets older. She was shown just everything. It was just a whole different thing. It was a whole different ball game. I don't know. It's a lot. I don't went off to other different things.
No, it's okay, but it all relates. Like it all ties back into each other. Like you said, you're shown a different type of love when your dad's around. A lot of times they try to put what's wrong with the Black community or some of the things that might be wrong with our community is the fact that a lot of dads were in prison, or a lot of dads weren't there for not just their daughters, but their sons as well. Like they weren't in the household. There was a lot of single mother households. So therefore that's what created X, Y, and Z stigma. Right. So, and you guys are breaking the mold. You guys are helping break the mold. Right. Yeah. Like to be in your 20s, to be married, to be starting a family, to be, getting PhDs and different things like that. Like that is a step in the right direction. And I want to just going from that in that marriage and building that foundation. I want to talk a little bit about wealth and money, because some of that plays a factor as well. Just tell me, either one of you guys, whoever wants to go, just how you believe that having your marriage is actually a stable form of building wealth. We hear this term generational wealth all the time, but just talk to me about how you feel like, your marriage is something that will be able to accumulate wealth within your family.
I would have to say being honest with yourself, right? I've had, and I would like to start off with this story as a precursor of why I say be honest with yourself. I've had close friends say, well, man, you're young. I'm 27 now. I think I was 25 years old when I said, hey, guys, I'm really feeling Chantel. I really do like her, and I really want to start something with her. And that's propose. And it just, there's all these questions coming from my guy friends, which they were being very meaningful and they were caring, and I trusted their judgment on certain things. However, you don't. One of the things that were pointed out was like, car. Do you have a house? Do you have a nice salary job? Do you have everything put together for yourself and things of that nature? It's like, are you really ready to go and sacrifice a lot of time, and things of that nature. And so they weren't saying it so much in a negative and hurtful way. But however, I gave to them the fact that, generations past before us, I'm speaking as Black men, when we were Black people in slavery, all the way up until now, and with all the things that's going on with the prison system, things of that nature, there was a way that was just made for us to where we could still have families, where we could still accumulate wealth in some sense. And they were young, some were very young and had children, but they still provided. There was still some provision. And I do want to lay this statistic out there, because I actually did a Black men panel some months ago. And one of my colleagues was saying that Black fathers are around more than any other father here in America. I would definitely check the facts on that. And I would say that a lot of the media and the isms that are out here in this society is what's trying to pressure people to think that Black fathers are not doing their jobs. I've watched a video of a Black father who was with his daughter, at a gas station, taking care of her and just getting her something to drink. And then a white lady just came up to her and was like, I think that's just so amazing. And he was kind of confused, and he wanted clarification. And she was like, yeah, well, I'm glad, this is great that you're with your daughter. And so just these true lived experiences that had just been molded into the minds of people to say that Black men are not doing their part is a lie. Because of all the things that have happened, especially with, the new Jim Crow. If you haven't read that book, The New Jim Crow, Black men are heavily targeted and going to the jail system. So that just what we're talking about here, that breaks down that family system of us actually being able to go into our families' lives, police brutality, things of that nature. People need to check the facts before coming for us, pretty much.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That is so fellas, I don't want to take too much more of your time. I just have like one or two more questions and then I'll let you guys go. You guys have been awesome. Once again, I'm talking to Marcus Stubbs. Marcus is actually a PhD student at Bellarmine, and Monche is in the Air Force. So we were talking to two young, solid brothers that have a lot going on for them. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe. Now, this one is for you, Marcus, and you touched on it a little bit, and I just want you to dive into it just a tad bit more. You talked about religion and how that played a factor in you choosing your wife, right? Like, in you really being able to be connected to her. Just kind of talk me through, like, how your religion, how your faith actually guides you and guides your relationship moving forward.
Yeah. First of all, when I choose this scripture just to know a little bit about the virtuous woman. Now, you don't have to use this scripture just to know like what it all means to, actually have a great woman, because it is led truly by God. I'm a Christian man, and the scripture is Proverbs 31. I would like for you to definitely do your research and look into that scripture about a virtuous woman. But other than that, for my belief in God and how that has led me to continue to have and foster a great relationship with my wife is that we make sure that we take time to pray with each other. We make sure and that's a part of the communication piece, right? And we make sure we have time to actually sit and talk with other people that are firm believers in the faith. So that way we can understand, like, okay, did we see this differently? Because it's one thing to always say, well, this is how I view it. And then hear the other person say, this is how I view it. But it's another thing to actually have another good group of friends, comrades to say, okay, I see that y'all are both going this way, but this is really what's happening. This is, you need those second opinions. You need other firm believers around you. And it's okay to, have a date night with other firm believers in the relationship, because we're all in this together. It shouldn't be a one person thing. This is how the foundation is continuing to grow, is if we continue to connect with others to strengthen the relationship. We're not superhuman beings. We're ordinary people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Monche, I'll get you out on this. When you do have, like you talked about, sometimes having those weeks where you and your wife might not be getting along, how do you all settle it, and how do you all eventually overcome whatever the difference may be?
It's usually just communication at the end of the day. It's all it boils down to. When we have those times where I'm like, okay, we need to have a talk. I'm not holding nothing back. She won't hold nothing back. Tell me everything. Because you can't make progress without, laying it all out there. You got to keep moving forward from whatever rut I might be in. I might be feeling one way, and something might be a different way. She might be feeling one way, and it could be a different way with me. Like, you never know. It's always, try to keep open communication. That's the same thing even with my child. I want to make sure there's open communication in the house. There should never be anything you're scared to come talk to me about. I'm gonna tell you, what I think I'm gonna tell you what you need to hear. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. And that's how I was raised, and that's how I'm gonna raise my kids as well. It's really simple.
That's awesome, man. Well, Marcus and Monche, man, I'm glad. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this Black Love panel. You guys got to highlight your wives, highlight your marriage a little bit, and show to, break some of those chains, some of these stereotypes that get labeled upon us, not just as Black people, but specifically Black men, right? Like, you hear all these things about the rappers and the athletes and all these Black men running through women and doing all these great, crazy stuff. And we have two examples right here, and there's millions of examples across the country, but two examples right here in your face, live and direct, men, they're in their 20s that have been married for, years at this point, and that it continue to show, set the example moving forward. So I want to thank you guys so much for joining me. Be sure to give them a digital round of applause, both Marcus and Monche for coming on here, sharing some of the stories, some of the funny ones from the proposals and some of the crazy ones, and also reflecting on how their marriage is much more than just a marriage. It's something that's a partnership. It's something that is someone that can help you grow, someone that continues to build, and it's not a finished product. Would you say it's something that's continuing to continue to build and continue to get better day in and day out? So guys, thank you so much for joining me. Once again, this is the Black Boss Channel. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe, and we are out.